It was one of those rare Sunday mornings when the city felt unusually still, as if the world itself were holding its breath. Yet beneath the calm, life's turmoil lurked, ready to surface. I settled into my usual corner table at the small cafe near my apartment, the one with the cracked window that always let the sunlight spill in just right. My phone scrolled endlessly under my fingers, a feeble attempt to quiet the restless thoughts that had been gnawing at me for weeks. Amelia, my wife, had been distant lately, not dramatically, not angrily, but in a way that spoke volumes without words. It was subtle, just enough to prick at the edges of my awareness until I could no longer ignore it. I had barely taken a sip of coffee when she appeared, not Amelia, but a woman who seemed to have stepped out of a glossy magazine. Auburn hair framed her face perfectly, and her hazel eyes struck with a penetrating clarity, as if she could see straight into me. Without a word of greeting, she slid into the seat across from me, her gaze fixed. "You're Nathan, right?" she asked, calm but certain. There was no room for denial. I hesitated. She smiled faintly, enigmatic. "And I'm Clara," she said. "We need to talk." A shiver ran through me. My mind spun. "About what?" I asked cautiously. She leaned forward slightly, closing the distance between us without moving an inch closer. "About our spouses," she said, matter-of-factly. "Your wife is seeing my husband." The words struck like icy water. Part of me wanted to laugh, to deny it outright. Another part froze in disbelief. The cafe's usual sounds, clinking cups, murmured conversations, the hiss of the espresso machine, faded to nothing. Clara's calm eyes studied me, unwavering. "I know it sounds insane," she said. "But I have proof, photos, messages, everything." I swallowed hard. Amelia. My Amelia. The thought twisted in my chest, raw and unfamiliar. I had noticed the small signs, the late nights, mysterious texts, the faint whiff of someone else's perfume, but I had pushed them aside, telling myself I was imagining things, that love meant trusting even in uncertainty. Yet here it was, undeniable. Clara didn't demand anger or tears. She simply offered a way forward. "We don't have to respond with rage," she said softly. "We can do this differently." She slid a small envelope across the table. Inside were photographs, screenshots, and fragments of conversations. Every piece matched the uneasy suspicion I had buried deep inside. My mind reeled. I wanted to turn away, to ignore it, but the evidence was undeniable. What do we do now?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. Clara's lips curved in a small, almost mischievous smile. "We give them a surprise," she said. "One they won't forget." I stared at her, incredulous. "A surprise?" "Yes," she replied calmly. "But it has to be perfect, subtle, precise, unforgettable." Something shifted inside me. The weeks of confusion, silent frustration, and simmering anger gave way to focus. I felt a spark I hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose. "I'm in," I said finally. "But we have to be careful. No mistakes." Clara nodded approvingly. "Exactly. First, we gather all the details, their routines, timings, favorite spots. Then we orchestrate it perfectly." Over the next hour, we quietly strategized, our conversation meticulous and deliberate. Clara's calm precision was contagious, and I found myself laughing genuinely for the first time in weeks, connecting with someone who understood my emotions completely. By the time we left the cafe, anticipation had replaced my anxiety. A stranger had become my partner in a mission that felt simultaneously surreal and necessary. The following days were spent observing Amelia and her companion, a man named Derek, without ever letting them suspect. Every habit, every small routine became a clue in our carefully laid plan. It was thrilling, almost hypnotic, to see the patterns emerge, each piece falling into place as we anticipated. 2 days later, Clara and I reconvened at the cafe, armed with a detailed outline. "Tonight," she said, eyes sparkling, "we confront them. Subtly. They must feel the shock, but never suspect it was planned." I nodded, rehearsing the calm neutrality I would need to maintain. Clara, by contrast, exuded effortless composure, the kind that made you trust her completely. That evening, I parked a few blocks from the bistro where Amelia and Derek had their usual Thursday dinner. Clara arrived shortly after, perfectly disguised in a coat that revealed nothing. A small nod between us was enough. Inside, Amelia laughed at something Derek said, a sound both familiar and distant. A pang of jealousy hit, but I steadied myself. This wasn't about revenge. It was about revealing the truth in a way that could no longer be ignored. Clara slipped in behind us, choosing a nearby table with a perfect vantage point. I took a deep breath and approached Amelia's table as though by chance. "Mind if I join you?" I asked. Her startled blink and polite, forced smile betrayed the tension she hadn't expected. Derek froze, a flicker of confusion crossing his face as he caught sight of Michu. His fork hovered mid-air, awkwardly suspended. Clara followed smoothly, sliding into a seat across from me. Suddenly, the room seemed smaller, as if the walls themselves leaned in, eager to witness what was about to unfold. Amelia's eyes widened slightly. She seemed to sense that this encounter was no accident. Derek, usually so self-assured, showed the first signs of unease. "Amelia," I said, keeping my tone casual, almost light. "I didn't expect to see you here tonight. Funny coincidence, isn't it?" My words were easy, but the underlying weight was undeniable. Clara added, a small, controlled smile playing on her lips. "Yeah, quite the coincidence for everyone involved." The silence thickened, almost oppressive. Amelia and Derek exchanged glances, and the confidence that Derek normally wore so comfortably began to crumble, replaced by hesitant curiosity. Amelia gripped the edge of the table, her mind racing to piece together the meaning behind this unexpected convergence. Then Clara leaned forward slightly, her voice calm yet commanding. "We know everything," she said. "The dinners, the messages, the little secrets you thought were hidden." Her words landed with quiet force, rippling through the stillness. Amelia's lips parted, and in her eyes, I saw something I hadn't before. Shock, fear, perhaps even regret. Derek's body stiffened, his gaze flicking nervously between us. I kept my expression neutral, letting the tension speak for itself. "This isn't about anger," I said softly, my voice steady. "It's about clarity, about understanding that actions have consequences, even when you think no one is watching." Clara subtly revealed the photos and messages, doing so with casual precision. Amelia gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Derek's face paled, his self-assurance dissolving in an instant. The exposure was complete, no room for denial, no escape from the truth we had orchestrated. The room seemed to hold its breath for a moment, and then Clara and I quietly excused ourselves, leaving Amelia and Derek to absorb the weight of the revelation. Outside, the crisp night air hit me, bringing a sense of release I hadn't realized I'd been craving for weeks. Clara's smile was both triumphant and knowing. "They'll remember this," she murmured, not from anger, but because the truth is impossible to ignore. I nodded, feeling a clarity I hadn't felt in a long time. This wasn't about vengeance. It was about reclaiming my space, my dignity, my sense of reality. Amelia and Derek had made their choices, and I had made mine, with precision and purpose. As I walked home under the streetlights, the night wrapping around me like a protective cloak, I understood something essential. The most powerful surprises aren't always loud or dramatic. They are quiet, subtle, and impossible to ignore, revealing the truth in a way that leaves no room for lies or pretense. For the first time in months, I felt free, not just from betrayal, but from the uncertainty that had been quietly eroding me. Clara gave me a final nod before disappearing into the darkness, leaving a sense of unexpected partnership in her wake. Fate had intertwined our paths for a shared purpose, and in the chaos, clarity had emerged. I walked on alone, ready for whatever tomorrow might bring, confident in the knowledge that I had reclaimed control over my life, faced the truth head-on, and ensured it could never be ignored again.